A very good afternoon to everyone who's in this room today. Admittedly, so I'm very nervous right now. I don't normally get nerves, but I'm going to go ahead with it and say thank you for having me here today. Now, today we're going to be talking about what next, right? What next? Well, I'm going to be honest that when I was first approached to do this TEDx talk, I was overwhelmed with emotions. First and foremost, I was obviously very happy that, and I was very grateful as well that someone out there thought something of me and someone wanted to hear my thoughts. But the bigger emotion, more than all of that though, that was more evident, was that I was confused. Confused because why was I, of all people, selected to stand up here on stage? I haven't sort of invented any sort of life-changing app. Now, if you don't already know, I'm actually just a television presenter. And I haven't really discovered any sort of brand new discovery, nor have I really won any awards of any kind. Except maybe for having the award for the worst football predictions ever, which, by the way, is a legitimate award given to me by my team because I'm just as bad at score predictions. So I hope no one asks me about England-Sweden tonight, all right? So, yes, I am that bad. To top it all off, if you haven't already guessed, I am a sports presenter. I present and promote mainly football. Now, football is a sport that has been around for about 3,000 years. Now, that's ancient history. I talk about a 3,000-year-old sport for a living. I should be talking about history up here, not the future. So how would I, of all people, know what's next? Good news is I will not be talking about myself today. I will be talking purely about an idea on its own. Now, today you're going to be hearing about, and of course, some of the most thought-provoking ideas and solutions from some of Malaysia's best. We have had chef, and we've just had a 15-year-old social entrepreneur. Originally in her biography it says 16, but apparently she's 15, which, well, admittedly makes this a lot more intimidating for me to be up here. So I'm going to put my hands up and say I'm nowhere near any of their levels. I definitely do not have any sort of expertise or accreditation to talk about food or compassion or social issues like you've just heard. But one thing that I'm going to present today, and everything that has been presented so far and will continue to be presented for the rest of the day, can be solved and summed up to one simple idea that I will be sharing with you. So with that, I hope that every one of you here continue to take on everything that is presented today and take on each and every single one of their ideas, and along with that, present it with mine and what I'm about to say. Because what I'm about to share with you works in complementary. Like I said, I'm no social issues expert, but I know that there is one thing that I'm really, really good at, as in really, really good at. And it's not what a lot of you are thinking, by the way. I can sort of read some thoughts and know we are technically in school, so I'm keeping this all clean, PG-13. And it's actually something that all of you here are also equally as good at. But studies show that the more we level up in life, the more we go on, the more modern we are, we tend to lose this ability. We tend to forget about it as well. And it is all something that we're born with, and that is to be human. And I don't mean be human as in be this sort of like short face, nimble hands, this weird limbs sticking out of this block-like figure. Not being human by its physical traits, because let's face it, even that is subjective. Now, I'll have you know I actually have an extra bone in my feet, both of my feet actually, and I'm pretty sure I'm still considered a human being standing up here. So everything that you think what a human is, forget about it, all right? Forget everything that you know about what it means to be human and hear me out for the next 10 minutes. So we've come very far from the start of civilization. Some theories believe that Homo sapiens remain to be the only human surviving species from about 30,000 years ago. Until then, we were actually no different than any other animal. We went through something called a cognitive revolution, that as a person we develop traits that differentiate us from what we deem as animals today. So that made us human. Since then, we've gone through empires, agricultural revolution, scientific revolution, industrial revolution, to where we are now, where we have our smartphones that fit into the palm of our hands that shoot 4K resolution movies, to self-parking cars that I'm sure you've just heard that man talk about as well, to even cloning sheeps. I don't know why we're cloning sheep, but apparently we are doing that, but you get my point. All right, so we've come far in more ways than one. Any industry that you can name it all that comes up in your head, you can sort of say, quote unquote, we have progressed. We live in such a beautiful time, right? We've got more money in the bank than ever. We have better cars, taller buildings. We have faster internet, which is very important. We also have a faster way of working things. So I guess I understand why a lot of people would say that we have progress. But my question to you here is, have we really? When in the 20th century alone, in this so-called modern world, we still have 108 million lives lost to war, 10 million lives lost to sweatshops. We've had lives lost in coal mining, tin mining, all for the sake of the smartphone that you hold in your hand. We've come to a state of the world where we've developed on-the-go convenient food packaging, and yet we get littering. We have social media, and yet we get cyberbullying. It's a little bit ironic, isn't it, to call all this progress? Because we can't just see one part of the world and completely ignore the rest when this is actually happening. Now, the word progress in the Oxford Dictionary is defined as development towards an improved or more advanced condition. And based on Merriam-Webster, progress is the process of improving or developing something over a period of time. Or more concisely, it is a better, gradual betterment as a whole. And if you look at these industries individually, I can understand why some people would sort of say, yes, there has been advancement, but if we return to the original definition of progress, development towards an improved condition. And condition here is defined as a way of living and existing. So are these the only pillars that we're going to define an advanced condition on? Are we going to use this to clearly state that this is what our entire lives are? No. Because there's more to life than if your phone has facial recognition. So can we really say that we have progressed? I don't think so. We can't just look at these pillars of progress and not consider that this is also happening in the world. Now, my theory, and of course the question is, why did all of it happen? How did we cause this to happen? My theory is that we've become so focused on developing everything extrinsic, everything else in the world that we think is external, versus the humanity ratio is completely out of whack. We've become so obsessed, so psychopathic with developing what we thought is progress, and at the same time we've forgotten to improve and advance one very important industry to not only balance it out, but to work with it hand in hand. Now imagine the world like a scale. Now what's been happening so far is we've been filling up on one side of the scale with everything, technology, science, beauty, medicine, whatever you can think of, and we left the other side of the scale completely empty. We haven't developed humans. And what's going to happen is that scale is going to flip, and the world is going to collapse into itself if we keep leaving the human industry behind. We have been ignoring the human industry for so long that we're now reaching the tipping point. So studies have shown that the higher your socioeconomic status is, the better that we get and become in the world, the less we feel for a fellow human. And it kind of seems like to me, the better we get at the external, the worse off we are internally as people. So I think we need it now more than ever. So if your question is, how bad can it be? Well, consider this. A study by the Association of Psychological Science and the University of Michigan has shown that the empathy level of college students have dropped by a staggering 40% from the year 2000. Now, most of you here weren't born yet in the year 2000. Which makes me feel extremely old. But that was the year, and that was the era of the internet boom. So what happened? Internet went up, empathy went down. And in the 21st century, when our technological connectivity and communication is at a level unprecedented in human history, where we can connect with someone 5,000 miles away with a click of a button, we made it so easy for us to be there for one another. So why is it that we find meanness increasing online? People are more mean than ever. We get more and more cyberbullies. It kind of seems like the more connected we are, the less we connect with each other on a human level. And that is what happened when you develop everything else, but not the human industry, to cope with it and to level up at the same time. We left the human industry behind. So instead of using all these things for good, we decided to use it for evil. And I think it's about time that we stop to think, wait, there is something wrong here. And if you're thinking, oh, I don't cyberbully, I'm very eco-conscious, well, good. I'm very proud of you, and I hope you take some time today to be very proud of yourself too. But in reality, that is not everyone else. In reality, we need to move forward together. We need to actually start taking this on considering humans as an industry and work together and progress and raise our entire level up together. It's time we see it as an industry of its own and raise the general standards of humanity as a whole, to a point that there shouldn't even be a 1% that takes such an amazing thing as Instagram, I love Instagram by the way, and use it to call someone else ugly. To take the discovery of radiation and use it for war. If every other industry in the world, I'm sorry to have to bring this up again, take a look back at technology. If the industry of technology can rise up as a whole, if you look at internet, we now no longer even have dial-up. The moment you want to install your internet, you straight away get broadband because its general standards are just that high. Why can't the same apply to humans, where we no longer have people even thinking or considering littering on the streets or exploiting the world in any way? So what does this mean to return and go back and fix everything else and to level up the humanity so that it's at the same level of everything else in the world? What does being human mean? Well, the word human actually originates from the Latin word humanus, which means of man, being, the human, but it also has another meaning. It also means humane, philanthropic, kind, gentle, polite, refined, and civilized. That's why when you see someone doing something nice for someone else, or to an animal, or just doing something nice in general, you call it humanity. Even the word is inside there, humanity. So what would being more human in the real world mean? Well, we look at the original definition again. To be humane with your decisions, to be kind to one another, to be learned of the world. So what can we do to be more human today? Well, the answer is within ourselves. It's about from this point onwards to move forward just being conscious with everything that you already do. It's, of course, looking at the other person next to you and realize this person is a human being. Now, what I like to normally do, and maybe you might find this useful to yourself, and just as how when we try to be good at something, the key is to practice. Just as we would set a reminder for our piano classes or our ballet classes, maybe we should set a mental reminder, or even better yet, a physical reminder on your phone, to just take a step back from life and sort of think to yourself and put yourself in another person's shoe that's in your current situation of life and consider that this person is also another human being. And maybe also always ask the question, no matter what you do, is what I'm doing right now human? Maybe that could be the answer. It just starts by being aware. So now that we've gone through all the statistics, all the little nitty-gritties, let's have a little bit of fun, all right? Let's try to imagine a world where the human industry is parallel and at the same level as every other industry in the world. We've never had it, so we can imagine the best we can. Well, to me, that kind of looks like, what the world would look like to me is, if I were to pick up, or rather pick out, not pick up, pick out any man or woman in the world out of the box in this room, say, that boy with the denim jacket with the white shirt. If I were to pick him out of the room, and I need to trust him, in this ideal world, I would trust him that he would have developed himself as a human enough, that as society have leveled up enough in the human industry, that if I give him the most dangerous weapon in the world, the Big Rig button to destroy planet Earth, that he's developed enough as a human to not misuse it. To me, that is what the ideal world would look like. So it's about time that we worked on ourselves, and let's be human first. It's time to change. And in words more eloquently than how I would have put it today, because we are at the dawn of an era of powerful tools and information, and like many, it can be used to build or destroy the world. And what determines that direction is how developed we are in the human industry. And in the words of Dr. Bob Moorhead, who, like I said, put it a lot more eloquently than I did, a paradox of our time is that we develop taller buildings but shorter temper, wider highways but narrower viewpoints. We spend more but we have less. We have more degrees but less sense. We have learned how to make a living but not a life. We have conquered outer space but not inner space. We have multiplied our possession but reduced our values. We have done larger things but not necessarily better things. Another quote that I also love from the old Charlie Chaplin movie, The Great Dictator. This is actually quite a popular speech, and I'm sure some of you would have watched this as well. It says, "We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. A machinery that gives us abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness." And of course, in a quote much more relatable to all of you here today, in the words of the Chainsmokers, "In a town full of fancy cars and crowded bars and supermodels, the only thing that I can't afford is to lose myself." So ladies and gentlemen, let's not lose ourselves today. Let's not forget to be human, because the answer is within us. It is time that we develop the internal to match the external. It's time that we develop ourselves first before we looked at the world, because we need it now more than ever, and that is to be human. Thank you.